Razor on the Harbor One Hotline with Gresh and Hart. Razor, good morning.
Good morning, fellas. Hope everyone survived Turkey Day.
Yep, you had a very traditional Turkey Day here in America. I'm assuming no Canadian application was in effect.
Nope, absolutely not. This is the best part of becoming an American citizen is American Thanksgiving. It's by far my favorite holiday, so it's my adopted holiday that I love, sitting down and watching football all day.
What is Canadian Thanksgiving like?
It's like American Thanksgiving, light, very light. So very similar, but without football, without Black Friday, without the hype. It's basically we sit down and have a turkey dinner. But the good thing with the Canadian Thanksgiving, though, is the timing. Having it in October allows for 2 months in between turkey big family meals. So that's the one thing I have. Like we're just weeks away from doing it all over again in Christmas, where the October to the December is a bit of a better pace. Space it out a little bit.
I like it. I did not like the Bruins losing to the Panthers 5-2. The most lopsided loss of the year, I do believe. How did you view that one, Razor?
It felt a little bit of a scheduled loss to me. Going into the Thanksgiving break, being down in Florida a few days, Florida, a team that's very talented. The roster is very good, but they had been struggling. So a team that would have really looked to be getting the Bruins and really been fired up, where the Bruins could have looked past it a little bit. So I'm not didn't think too much of it. It was they were going to lose at some point, and they'll probably lose again, maybe once or twice this season. So it's all about the bounce back with this group at this point.
When you look at a team that had been cruising, it's so funny because when I go to ESPN.com and you click on like the hockey page and it lists the schedule down the side, and it's like the red L and the green W's, and it's like WWW. You got to scroll to find the L's for the Bruins. It just tells you how great they've played. Do you believe complacency is an issue, or reading the quote-unquote press clippings is an issue? And how does Jim Montgomery sort of counter that other than these occasional beatdowns?
First, it certainly can be the issue, and realistically, it's the thing that they have to worry about the most at this point. They don't have to worry about playoffs. They don't have to worry about where they are in the standings. They have to worry about the complacency, and they have to worry about getting better on a daily basis. The good news is with this group, being older, Bergeron, Krejci, Marchand, they recognize that, and I'm sure they will not allow it to settle in. Now, if it's a younger team, say the New Jersey Devils, that's really concerning for them because they're younger, they've had a great run, but you can lose your way very easily in the NHL. So I don't think it's an issue. It is the biggest issue for the Bruins, but I do think that they can handle it with the leadership in their group.
Andrew Raycroft of Nesson here with Gresh and Keefe. He's with us on the Harbor One Hotline. Razor, kind enough to talk pucks with us each and every week here on WEEI. All right, I do want to ask you about a couple of numbers that are out there and see if these things are sustainable. The Bruins' offensive depth, 20 different players scoring a goal. Some would look at that and maybe be like, boy, that's not going to hold up. How do you rationalize, Razor, 20 different goal scorers when you have guys like Pasternak and Marchand on the roster?
It's been the most impressive part of this group is the contribution from everybody and how guys that like a Nick Foligno who had tough years, Jake DeBrusk at times had tough years and have really bounced back and really stepped their game up over the summer and really in a big way changed the look of this roster without actually changing the roster. So I think that's still sustainable. I think the depth, I think the way Jim Montgomery has the defense jumping in the rush and playing a little more offensively allows some of those guys to do a better job in front of the net, screening, creating offense from the third and fourth lines because the defense are doing a better job offensively. So I think it's pretty sustainable. Scoring 4.5 goals every night, that's going to tighten up just because the league and everyone starts playing a little more defensively as the new year turns. It gets a little harder to score goals. The ice shrinks a little bit, but I think that overall depth that is a real focus for this team. And I think they're going to want to continue it.
As WEEI's resident goaltending expert, the storyline that I find very interesting with this team is sort of Ullmark becoming ridiculous. awesome. Breaking out. You know, we joke down at the Patriots like Dietrich Wise has had his year 6 jump where it just all clicks and suddenly he's this dominant playmaker on the defensive edge opposite Judon. Why has Ullmark been so good? And is this his job? Is Jeremy Swayman just a backup to Ullmark for the entire year?
Well, I guess we could say that now. Things change pretty quickly. I think there's certainly going to be many games. Swayman's injury doesn't help him, so that's going to put him back. He's going to play a lot more than he has. I think we just even saw that this week with him playing a couple games within 3 or 4 days. The schedule is going to tighten up. So we're going to see lots of Jeremy Swayman. But I think that 6-year jump that you just mentioned is a good analogy for most NHL goaltenders, and certainly Linus Ullmark. I mean, I talked about it last summer. He was the best goaltender that the Bruins could have signed last year, and they had to get him on a multi-year deal, and I thought it was a great job getting him on that deal. He wasn't as comfortable at the start of last season, coming over from a poor Buffalo team, not really knowing what to expect here. I think he's settled in and become more comfortable and recognized where the threats are on the ice with this Boston Bruins team. But I like the idea of a 6-year jump. I think you're just a little bit more mature in your late 20s as an NHL goaltender. You've been through the league a few times, and you really recognize what works for you and what doesn't. And it's also easier to be – for me, what I'm watching him right now, he's doing nothing. He's doing very little, and I think it takes you a few years in the NHL as a goaltender to recognize that less is more a lot of nights, and I think he's in that point.
Razor, obviously in other sports, we kind of break down the schedules a little differently. I think there's, from the average hockey fan, I would say, there isn't sort of the league knowledge that there is in some other sports. But, you know, the lineup that the Bruins have played in terms of opponents has not been great. We've heard this is the first real tough part of the schedule. What are you looking for over the next 2 weeks in this so-called tough part of the schedule that would let you know that this team is very much for real and it doesn't matter who they play?
For me, it's not losing consecutive games, finding ways to get points in games. So they lose Wednesday night in Florida. Now, they got to find a way to pick up points today. You don't want to have another dog today. Now you don't have points. Now you're playing Tampa again on Tuesday. So you can start looking. That's the biggest thing through these tough stretches in the NHL is that you have to find ways to get points in multiple games and not give up points, not go 0 for 3 or 4 straight games, because that happens quickly and that's hard to turn, especially when you're going through a stretch where the Bruins are right now. So I'm not as concerned about, being 500 or getting 3 games over 500 in these 12, 13 games. It's more a matter of, okay, stop the streak. You lose a game, you find a way to get points, you find a way to get a win the next time around so you don't end up losing that momentum that can really change in the NHL.
Superficially or from afar, it looks like a good hockey team that maybe didn't love its coach, got a new coach, loves its coach, and wins more games, is a better team. Is that oversimplification? Is that too superficial?
I think it's a little I think it could be. It's easy. It's the best way to explain it. I think any new voice, especially one after having the same one for 6 years. Bruce Cassidy was here 6 years. That's a really long time in pro sports, as we all know.
Yep.
It's not 25 years at Bill Belichick, but that's a whole nother, that's not really comparable. I think in this town, we lose track of that 6 years was a really long time to hear the same voice. So I think you could easily say loving, now they love the guy, they hated the last guy. But I think it's more, it comes down to just hearing a new voice, a new, different excitement that you get from that, a different level of motivation, a different level of energy that you get from those. And I think that's where the Bruins are. And of course, Jake DeBrusk is an easy example where it was in the public that he didn't like the guy, and now he does, and he's playing better for it.
You may remember Jeff Fisher once said, and I think it was like 40%, you lose 40% of your locker room every year the longer you stay around and coach. Guys just start to tune you out. Do you, from your experience around teams and coaches and players, is there truth to that in the hockey world, that you every year, just by human nature, you lose a certain portion of the team?
Absolutely. And 40 is probably high for hockey. I would assume 40 works for football when you're talking about 52 guys. 40 is a little high for hockey when you're starting out with 2021, but you're probably losing, 2 or 3 guys every year, and that's easy to do. And players have are like elephants. They have really long memories, and it's hard to get over certain situations. And even you might feel a little better one week, but as soon as something poor happens again, you're back on hating. So yeah, I like that idea, and certainly the longer it goes with certain guys, the more you're going to lose, and you don't have to all out lose them, but you just have to not be getting their best to make a huge difference.
Well, Razor, we know that the tickle trunk is very much a thing. Who gets the tickle trunk treatment this week?
Oh, the tickle trunk. I mean, I have to keep staying positive. It's way too early to go negative, so I'm going to put Charlie McAvoy in, and he's an easy one, but I think the way he's played and come back, he had 4 assists the other night. I love the way his game's at, and I think going forward, that's now going to allow to alleviate some of the pressure off Hampus Lindholm. We haven't noticed him as much the last week. Charlie's kind of stepped back into that number 1 role on the back end, and I've loved his game since coming back and really not playing for 6 months with a shoulder injury. So Charlie McAvoy, because he's a high-name guy that's not going to go in it again, but I think he deserves it at this point. This is a Turkey Day.
Quickly, your thoughts on the Winter Classic jerseys for both the Bruins and the Penguins.
The Penguins is terrible.
The giant P on it? Oh, yeah, it looks weird.
It makes zero sense. I do not understand that. Like, you could do a lot with a penguin. Like, you could have made that real cool.
Yes.
I don't like that one at all. Bruins is fine. I like the Pooh Bear better, so they're cranking out 2 new jerseys within a couple of weeks of each other. I think the Pooh Bear stands out more to me, but I think they'll be pretty sharp when they're out in the middle of Fenway on January 2nd. I think it'll look cool, so I'm okay with it, and I guess it all comes down to, is it better than Pittsburgh's? And yes, it is better than Pittsburgh. So they're not going to have the worst jersey on the ice. So I guess that's a win, too.
Exactly. Well, Razor, we'll catch you next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Black Friday shopping as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm running right out of here to the outlets. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
We'll talk
sure
to
you guys are, too, when you get out of the state.
Oh, yeah. I just hope to make it home. Thanks, Razor. We appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it, guys. Good talking.